for those of us who live amongst the beautiful and the debonair in cities like Paris, where everyone is well dressed, well perfumed, well coiffed, and well composed all the time, it seems, even when just walking to the corner laundromat to put a load in the washing machine. Fumblers and slobs, unless completely oblivious, heavily stand out in the psychology of perfect refinement. It's Kitchenette Paris, a show about food and passions and the City of Light. I'm Dany Bells, historian, former restaurateur, writer, cook, and current Parisian with the tiniest of kitchens. Join me as I answer the siren call of Paris and eat and cook my way through town. There's a pecking order out there of fancy eaters with cool kids who swallow whole, fresh oysters in one go and sip on scotch on the rocks with particular finesse. Compared to the fumbling, vulgar outcast that spills ketchup on her chest and doesn't notice the spinach stuck on her two front teeth, the cool kids eat and drink with both a nuanced smugness and a touch of pity for us loners that will not swallow a raw oyster, drink a fiery spirit, or even stomach a sour, under-roasted coffee. Us rejects that move in the culinary circles of casual fare, comfort foods, sheet pan dinners, and French roast coffee have felt the heavy judgment of the snob class with their mignonette sauces on Bellon oysters and pale roasted coffee beans with undertones of blueberry. Yes, the snobs eat sheet pan dinners too, but when they sip scotch at the bar with a raised eyebrow and a smug little grin showing no signs of agony when pouring fire down the throat, their self-satisfaction reeks heavy. How could they not feel the slightest hint of pomposity when downing grub that takes serious work to learn to maneuver, let alone enjoy? Mastering the perfectly choreographed ergonomic movement of the tongue and throat to pass a rubbery mollusk in one piece from shell to stomach is indeed impressive. And the sequence of movements required to sip a shot of whiskey in the polished dance of swirling a crystalline tumbler in manicured hand while maintaining a demure but relaxed composure at the burn that is about to erode the esophagus is equally formidable. Apologies to the nice oyster eaters out there or the people who truly love an under-roasted cup of coffee. But some of you gastronomic sophisticates at trendy restaurants make me want to run to the nearest Burger King for a peaceful dinner where no class system of eaters puts into question my self-esteem or immunity to what others think of me. The balm of adulthood can generally cure that strange preoccupation with others' opinions that haunts us during deep adolescence. But for me, inadequacies resurface quite heavily when surrounded by the so well-composed and urbane connoisseurs that outskill and outperform me in the arena of good food. When near these masters, I am the dropout that never graduated from the gateway strawberry margaritas or shrimp scampi appetizers. I am back in high school, actually giving a damn about what my peers think of me. How do I look? Will I know the exact moment to toss my long hair before the cut glass tumbler of bourbon touches my lips? Will I know how to relax my throat and look cool and collected when the oyster brushes my uvula and is about to slip down my esophagus? You don't eat oysters? bewildered acquaintances have asked, usually in a patronizing tone, "How cute is that?" They might as well continue to declare the rift between us. They've had the full body experience of savoring the seas in one bite. Not me. They comprehend why an oyster is an erotic aphrodisiac. I don't. They are savvier than me. They have more chutzpah. They share a secret language with those in the know that excludes us simple folks who would rather eat a ham sandwich. Next to these food sophisticates, I'm a coward, a short-sighted ingenue with no capacity for expansion or the sublime. While sitting at the counter at the Swan Oyster Depot in San Francisco in the 1990s, I ordered the oyster cocktail that came in a parfait glass with a sprig of parsley on the side. I love fried oysters, especially on po' boy sandwiches, and expected a plate of mild, cooked mollusks to accompany a cold bottle of beer. How sad I was an undergraduate and could not afford the lobster that day, as it would have saved me a most prolonged moment of public panic as I tried to chew the only raw oyster I ever put into my mouth. I chewed for minutes on end, accumulating obscene amounts of saliva in my mouth, and panicked to think I would have to perform a public spit. I couldn't bear the gaze of skilled oyster eaters and San Francisco yuppies. Their judgment, their disgust, their decision to expel me from the circles of high eating society would scar me for life. My lunch companion looked on with pity as I spat the grotesque rubber booger loogie into a napkin. He graciously explained the ergonomic sequence to eating the mollusks, seemingly oblivious to the cook behind the counter, suppressing a tidal wave of giggles or the face of revulsion from the lady sitting next to me at the lunch counter. Their condemnation was too much for my system to tolerate. I was vulgar, gross, a nuisance. I knew what they were thinking. At least I thought I knew at the tender age of 22. And with my defenses in full gear, I fought back by imprinting onto my nervous system an unfair, lifelong counter-judgment of people who are too cool for their own good at restaurants. A stereotype I still hold that drives me to avoid the formal and the trendy and compels me to perform an undetectable in public sneer at those oh so debonair scotch drinkers sitting at the bar. The humiliation naturally passed, but not the nagging feeling that perhaps the scoffing onlookers were absolutely right about me. Maybe they saw right through my public veneer and understood that I am, in fact, a nuisance, and my laid-back temperament and worldly travels are just a facade to cover up the brutish vulgarity of being me. Maybe there is no place for me at the table amongst the greats. Maybe I am unremarkable and have no business seeking the poetic, the sublime, or the exquisite. Living in Paris, where external validation can rain heavily, I inevitably stumble upon situations that resurface the overarching question that engulfed me that day in San Francisco. Am I worthy? Am I worthy? Like a self-obsessed adolescent, I ruminate on this query at every corner of the city. The stylish and demure women with their svelte little bodies and pouty faces drinking apéros at every café terrace in the afternoons, are the mean girls from high school that expelled you from teeny bopper high society once upon a time. The packs of gorgeous middle-aged men in Dior suits commanding the long lunches at Michelin star restaurants are the alpha male jocks in school that never even made eye contact with a single girl who wasn't one of the mean ones. Every scolding from a snarky providor for my implied ignorance as an American Philistine is that one high school teacher you know had it out for you. In Paris, I am a pimply-faced, awkward teenager all over again, asking, am I worthy? Am I worthy? Am I worthy in my sneakers and LL Bean capris, pronouncing my outsider status with every botched bonjour? Every time I reject the apéro and drink fizzy water, am I expelled from the halls of cultural elevation? Do I really belong amongst those who swallow raw oysters whole? Unworthiness issues resurface primarily in culinary settings. Something about failing in the realm of food for me that I still haven't processed, perhaps not since that day at the oyster bar. I am a pretty good cook and even better eater. Really, I've owned restaurants and cooked infinite family feasts. I have served lunch to Steve Jobs. I cook dozens of different cuisines and enjoy exotic ingredients. I've grown my own fruit and vegetables and raised my own chickens. Hell, I even created food when I breastfed my babies. Cooking and eating is where I stand out. But the damn oyster dilemma reopens the wound of unworthiness each time I dare confront it. We all know that nourishment is art and friendship, love and soul, delight. It's the rhapsodic aroma of the musk melon on the kitchen counter, scandalously calling out to be devoured. It's the cooling sweat down the brow from a fiery bowl of beef rendang. It's a vanilla custard so sumptuous you can almost taste it with your tender skin. But the damn raw oysters and the scotch are my gatekeepers, the guards that stand between me and an up-leveling of experience that I yearn to have in this lifetime. I am repulsed by the idea of being my own worst prison guard, suppressing the potential for enjoying the extraordinary. I do not have fear of missing out on mastering the art of demure elegance, or on proving once and for all that I am cool enough to perform certain tricks. I just want to taste it all. The putrid durian fruit, the fermented Icelandic hakarl, the funky Australian Vegemite, the fiery Dutch cheese liquor, and the whole ocean that sits inside an oyster. With a general anti-authoritarian nature, I detest my own dictatorial inclinations when I put my foot down at the thought of downing a shot of tequila or finally letting a raw mollusk slide down my throat with ease and sensuous joy. I turned to YouTube recently in hopes of finding instructional videos to make it to the One Gulp Club. All kinds of self-proclaimed food experts shared advice on oyster preparation and etiquette. But I could not find a single down-and-dirty, real ergonomic model for what to do with the tongue, the teeth, the palate, the saliva in the swallowing process of a big, rubbery mollusk. How-to videos seem to always deliver the goods, You can learn the pearl stitch or how to lubricate your bike chain without a hitch. But it seems that oyster swallowing is one of those things that the internet just cannot seem to touch, along with the meaning of life, the true origins of the universe, the meaning of love, etc., etc. Certain things, it seems, you must decipher on your own, and no guru or machine will save you from the stumbling and fumbling in life's journey. Oyster swallowing, then, is up there with the meaning of life? Why not? It's an act that requires self-reflection. If you happen to be inept at it like me, and you concern yourself with appearing calm, collected, and maybe a little hip. In your discomfort, you might do a bit of soul-searching and note that your outrageous obsession with not making a fool of yourself in public is a true testament to your huge ego and preoccupation with external validation. Maybe you are as shallow as those cool kids who get under your skin. And with all that time spent on creating your public image, you miss out on all the fun, magic, and humor of the universe. Ethnobotanist and psychonaut Terence McKenna once said, "The sin is pride. The sin is pride." It's the ego, apparently, that gets in the way of experiencing the magic of the world. He went on, "If you care what other people think, if you care how it's going to impact on your reputation, if you have any of these lesser concerns, this power, this radiance, this dimension of authenticity cannot approach you." This is terrible news for those of us who live amongst the beautiful and the debonair in cities like Paris, where everyone is well-dressed, well-perfumed, well-coiffed, and well-composed all the time, it seems, even when just walking to the corner laundromat to put a load in the washing machine. Fumblers and slobs, unless completely oblivious, heavily stand out in the psychology of perfect refinement. Maybe it is pride that makes me so overly aware of how I'm perceived, but I can confirm that my neighbor's looks of revulsion at my occasional casual form are very hard to ignore. Dear listener, surely you know how it feels when you are expelled and shamed by your community for your apparent ineptitude and crudeness. Surely you know how traumatizing this is. You know this makes your stomach drop, right? People are mean, certainly in high school, certainly in trendy restaurants, and certainly in the streets of Paris. Terence McKenna might be right about these lesser concerns, but we are sensitive souls, and exclusion can seriously traumatize. Shunned by mean people, we can end up denying ourselves the loveliness of taking leaps of faith in our own lives. Asking the object of our desire out on a date, telling a joke at a dinner party, eating an oyster at a beautiful restaurant. The itch to live large quietly sits within most of us, even if our little traumas make us reticent to live big in the public eye. I am convinced that radical belly laughs are the best way through the hesitation. I don't have to laugh at my neighbors for being so stiff, but I can laugh at myself for my silly pride and for having fallen once again to the tricks of the ego. Lighten up, I might tell myself next time my stomach drops in disgust at my own apparent ineptitude. We have all been cast in a knee slapper of a comedy in this life. We're all fools, whether we gag in public or pretentiously relish our elevated status in the pecking order of sophistication. Let the belly laughs come at the absurdity of it all, and let my ego turn to amusement as I stumble through life, unrefined, uncouth, and maybe a little uncivilized. Cooked oysters I can eat unreservedly. They are a fussy beast to tackle, and the hullabaloo of cleaning and shucking them is a worthy endeavor when they're fried for a po' boy sandwich. A Louisiana classic, that beloved ex-French colony where Europeans, Native Americans, and African folks commingled and miscegenated and birthed a vibrant New World cuisine. The casualness of the sandwich is deceiving. Hours of labor needed for what appears to be a simple snack. Never underestimate casual fare and the amount of skill and love it requires to satisfy your hunger. A taco al pastor, a knife-cut beef empanada, a po' boy sandwich, all foods from the hands of highly skilled artisans that sell their inexpensive gifts at hole-in-the-wall establishments that should really be decorated with crystal chandeliers and fancy Persian rugs. We turn to these foods without a second thought until we try to cook them ourselves, throw in the towel, and admit that these dishes best be left to the experts. I will not be making these po' boys again. They are a work of art that requires hours and hours of labor, and although utterly delicious, they are a serious test for a kitchenette the size of a coat closet. If you have a bigger kitchen, a dishwasher, and actual equipment, and some oyster skills, and a mighty appetite, and live far from a good Cajun restaurant, then I would suggest that you maybe try the recipe I tried, and let me know how it goes for you. My recipe is in my newsletter. And if you have any advice on how someone like me can relate to fresh oysters in a more healthy way, please reach out. I look forward to your advice. Until next time, I'm Dany Bells. If you enjoyed this little pause in your day, please share my stories with someone you love. Subscribe to my newsletter or leave me a review. Details in show notes. Kitchenette Paris is written, directed, and produced by me, Dany Bells, from Paris with love. Music by Kyle Cox.